And a good Monday afternoon, everybody. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jerry Martz. On this last Monday in September, as we turn the calendar into October, we're only going to have very subtle changes in your forecast, and that means very, very low chances of rain. Some sunshine continues and maybe even a summer-like feel to the air as we turn that calendar into the last 3 months of the year. As we got the past weekend, we saw plenty of sunshine and dry weather. That continues. We're going to cover that, your forecast heading into the week ahead, and of course already next weekend. Looking forward to that first weekend in October. We'll also have a look at the traffic and some video that you will want to see. But first, take a look at the big picture we're looking at and tracking for this week. That is more dry weather. Conditions in our 10 weather impact continue to be sunny. That means cool mornings, clear skies, light winds, and a really nice looking forecast. Maybe air conditioning weather, but certainly sunglass weather. The only saving grace might be from getting us really toasty is that sun is setting a little bit earlier and earlier, and those days continue to shorten all the way until the third week of October. But let's focus on the positive and the upside, and that's the dry weather and the sunny skies. We're looking at a continuation of that forecast, and that means if you, like I did, I washed my truck last Thursday. That's 5 days already, almost 5 days, and it still looks pretty good. If you want to get same kind of mileage, pun intended, out of your car wash, you have ample opportunity to do that today, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and probably even Friday and Saturday of this week, as we're pretty much going to be rain-free. The only challenge might be, as along with that car wash, I got a bit of a sniffle, some allergies out there. If anything, the weeds are still growing, so the ragweed will still be a problem until we get that first really hard freeze, and that's probably about 3 to 4 weeks away. Downtown right now, a nice picturesque shot. Some sunshine, a few clouds out there, light winds, and a pleasant finish. We are 84 degrees. The winds are marginal, about 5 miles an hour. A bit of a breeze will be about it for us on this Monday. Then for the rest of the afternoon and the evening, we're going to watch those skies clear out. And that means, much like the past couple of mornings, a pretty cool, crisp start. Some spots close to 50 degrees. Bucyrus, in fact, below that mark at 48. But areas that will see a few more clouds, you can kind of pick that out. If you're south and east of I-71, Circleville, for example, around MacArthur, Athens, and over near McConnellsville and Caldwell, between 55 and 60. A few more clouds, as you'll see in a moment. North and west of that, Mount Vernon, Marion, up into Marysville, and Kenton between 50 and 55. But no matter where you start the day tomorrow, you're going to bounce back just like today. In fact, maybe even a degree warmer in spots. Low to mid 80s once again. The other wild card will be, or the other variable I should say, not a wild card, but we're pretty confident that there'll be a few more clouds in the south, and you can see that subtle color difference. From the darker orange around Columbus at 84, Newark 83, Circleville at 83, Athens at 77, MacArthur at 78, and Piketon at 77 degrees, Caldwell 78. So those clouds might have just a bit of an impact in keeping down a little bit of sunshine, therefore slightly cooler, but even those cooler areas are going to be above normal temperature-wise. Our normal high for central Ohio this time of the year, again, late September, early October, is in the mid to low 70s. So we're well above that by about 10 or almost 15 degrees. Now let's look forward to Wednesday. No real changes in the forecast. A dry and a cool start, much like tomorrow. We'll see a beautiful midday. Don't always have that opportunity to get into October and take that lunch outside while you're at work or school. Wednesday is a great day to do just that. Now the afternoon and the evening, we'll see a few clouds spilling into central Ohio from the northwest. Not rain clouds by any stretch. If anything, they might add to a nice picturesque sunset, which is about 7 o'clock on Wednesday evening. Once we get past that, we'll see a few more clouds moving back in. And as I said a couple minutes ago, we're already looking forward to the upcoming weekend, and that means we could go, in terms of the 10 weather impact team, I don't know about your football team, but our weather forecasting crew, undefeated, 7-0, as another perfect Friday night is forecast. Warm-ups around 80 degrees. We'll be cooling off after kickoff at 7 o'clock down to 70 to near 59 degrees as you're making your way home. Again, looking at another great weekend. No rain and unseasonably mild weather. 10 weather impact 7-day forecast for you. It does have temperatures bouncing down a little bit. We'll see a very slight change in the wind direction Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And then another change in the wind direction, basically coming out of the south. That's going to warm us right back up heading into this weekend. So a real nice finish. As we get to Saturday, Sunday, Monday, we're going to be back in the low 80s. And for the most part, we're going to stay dry. The one thing, speaking of dry weather, and I double checked this graphic before coming in on the 10 weather impact show today, that's nothing. The rainfall outlook, and this is kind of a model average, weather models looking out over the next 7 days. no rain. So if you did not get rain last week, we're going to stay dry. And unfortunately, that's the case for much of central Ohio heading into this entire week. Now, the other thing we're tracking, probably had a little bit of fanfare about the tropics. We are seeing a few of those clouds sneaking into the southeastern corner of the state. We're going to expand this just a bit and take us down to the Carolinas for a moment. That does show that cloud shield from a couple of tropical systems spreading as far back as Charleston and Pittsburgh, kind of making it over the Appalachians, making it have a really hard time. And this is often the case for central Ohio, the moisture having a hard time making it over the mountains into the Buckeye State. As we expand further still, there's not one but two. We've got two named storms in the tropics. Meteorologist Aaron White's going to be taking a closer look at that right now. Umberto is going to go out to sea and not going to be a problem. The storm system is going to be taking a little closer track to the Carolinas before going out to sea. So kind of brushing with some moisture there, but certainly an impact to the coast, but not close enough to the coast to move inland to impact central Ohio. So that's something to keep in mind that we will be watching very closely over the next couple of days. Again, not for direct impact, but maybe for some subtle indirect nuances in our local forecast. Now, as we just talked about and looked at the tropics, they've been getting more and more active over the past couple of days and weeks. Now, one point last week, it was looking like that tropical activity could directly affect the United States, making one, maybe two landfalls. That's obviously not going to be the case. Ohio Task Force 1 was set to head to the East Coast to help with Tropical Storm Imelda. That task force will no longer deploy members to the Carolinas as that storm is going to curve away from the U.S. So let's take a closer look at Imelda and the rest of the tropics. Here's meteorologist Aaron White with the latest.
Hey Jerry, we are talking about the tropics and how they've gotten really active over the last week or so, as we now have two storms that are ongoing in the Atlantic, and one of them actually became a Category 5 hurricane over the weekend back on Saturday. This is Hurricane Umberto, now down to a Category 4, but as of late this morning, early this afternoon, winds were sustained at 145 miles per hour, so still a powerful storm, and this one is projected to stay out over the Atlantic. It may bring some impacts around Bermuda in terms of some wind, surf, and even some heavy rainfall, but it is not going to be affecting the U.S. except for maybe a little bit of high surf along the coast. Meanwhile, further to the west, this is now Tropical Storm Imelda, and it is projected to become a hurricane here over the next day or so. Now, forecasts the last few days were showing it having a bit of an impact along the Carolina coastline, and it will still likely bring some rain to the Carolinas and parts of Georgia. As you can see the clouds, the moisture streaming on in. However, what's going on is the hurricane, Umberto, is actually going to be pulling it away from the coastline, which is good news, as original projections were showing some intense rainfall along the Carolinas. That's not the case anymore. Rainfall likely going to be maybe 1 to 3 inches, some of the heavier amounts closest to the coastline, but definitely some better news for the Carolinas. Now again, this is a look at Umberto, as it is still a powerful hurricane making its way towards the north and west and eventually going to be curving out over the Atlantic. Meanwhile, this one, Imelda, still strengthening and will likely become a hurricane here over the course of the next 24 hours. So the latest numbers on this showing winds are at 60 miles per hour, needs to be up closer to 75 to reach that Category 1 status. But as it curves to the north and east, you can see it does become a Category 1 hurricane and could cause some impacts around Bermuda. So we'll be watching that. But overall, looking at just quiet weather here across the area as we head through the next several days.
Thanks a lot, Aaron, and that is some good news, as many, if not all of us, have some interest or at least know somebody or have some connection to the Carolinas and the Mid-Atlantic, so some good news there. Now, switching things up from the tropics to this week's Climate Watch, a new report shows how central clean energy is to the U.S. economy. Here's Jesse Mitchell with that report.
We're keeping an eye on the climate. Here's what you need to know. President Trump sparked outrage this week with his address to the United Nations, calling climate change, quote, the greatest con job perpetrated on the world. The president urged countries to abandon wind and solar, labeling them a scam, and pushed for more American oil, gas, and nuclear energy. His remarks come as scientists warn fossil fuels are driving deadlier heat, floods, and wildfires. And as reports show, renewables are now among the cheapest sources of energy worldwide. Meanwhile, a new report shows just how central clean energy has become to the U.S. economy. Nearly 100,000 clean energy jobs were added last year, growing more than 3 times faster than the rest of the workforce. In all, more than 3.5 million Americans now work in solar, wind, batteries, and clean vehicles. But policy rollbacks have led to tens of billions of dollars in canceled projects, and analysts anticipate more than 800,000 jobs could be at risk. And finally, biologists at the University of Texas have discovered a new hybrid bird, likely created by climate change. The green jay and blue jay were separated by 7 million years of evolution, and until recently, their habitats did not intersect. Shifting weather patterns brought them together and produced this unlikely offspring. That's your Climate Watch. For the latest on climate and environmental news, go to cbsnews.com and follow us on Instagram at CBS News Planet. I'm Jesse Mitchell in New York.
Some interesting nuggets there. Now let's check out some new video. Over the weekend, monsoon conditions led to showers and storms across the desert Southwest, including Arizona. These thunderstorms quickly led to flash flooding. Arizona Governor Kate Hobbs declared a state of emergency for Gila County, Arizona on Saturday to provide resources to those areas hardest hit by the flooding from those monsoonal downpours. A number of Arizona National Guard troops were being deployed to help with rescue missions, and crews also from nearby Nevada and California were on the way too. And finally, you're looking at Hurricane Umberto from the International Space Station. What an awesome bird's eye view. This was taken on Friday as the storm rapidly intensified and developed into a real defined hurricane with that eye. As Aaron mentioned just a few moments ago, that storm will stay well away from the U.S., which is good news. It could have impacts around Bermuda over the next couple of days, and that's more good news because it looks like that storm is also going to take Tropical Storm, possibly Hurricane Imelda, out to sea with it. So again, interests across the U.S. mid-Atlantic and the mainland are largely going to be spared from a direct impact from a hurricane. And again, that is some good news. So that is it for your weather update here on 10 TV Plus on the Monday, the last Monday of September 2025. Coming up later this evening, starting at 4, 5, and again 6 o'clock, I'll be looking at the latest forecast for Central Ohio in more detail and let you know if there will be any updated rain chances anytime soon, what we can expect already for the upcoming first weekend in October. Until then, you can catch more news and weather online at 10tv.com. Have a great Monday.